you look more and more, there's only a few teams I think in the NBA, Trista, that like I truly trust as title contenders, and it's Boston, it's Denver. It's crazy to say it, but it's the Clippers. I think Clippers, because Kawhi's been there before, that team has been to the Western Conference Finals at some point. But when you really kind of break it down to like teams that are good in the regular season versus playoffs, there are very few that I really do have true confidence in as an actual title contender right now in the NBA.
Yeah, Denver's plus 245 to win the West. Clippers are plus 250. Then you've got Boston plus 115 to win the East. You know who I actually think is worth a long shot bet to win the East? And I know they are down bad right now. There's two of them. One, the one that I feel probably the best about are the Sixers. So they look horrible right now. Obviously, without Joel Embiid, they're just nothing. They can't protect the rim. Like they are getting completely, Tyrese Maxey getting double and triple teamed. But I like the move for Buddy Hield. They've got a lot of depth. They've got Nick Batum on this roster. They've got guys that can defend. They've got a lot of what we would call positional versatility to go size up, size down. Nick Batum can either play the 5 or he could play the 3, right? And you've got Joel Embiid there coming back into form. I do not trust Boston to play as a team in clutch time, high leverage basketball situations. I think Jason Tatum just doesn't necessarily have that in him, right? He kind of wants to go ISO when the game is on the line. So for me, it's the one team that I think is a long shot in the East that I like a lot is Philly at 950. And then of course we know what time it is with the Heat. They look bad all regular season, and then they find a way to get to the finals. A lot of hedging opportunities if you take the Heat 10-1.
For being realistic, it's very few. It's very few teams that check all the boxes, right? And I think that's what always makes me go back to Denver. So it always makes me go back to the Nuggets and say, all right, this is a team that clearly is focused more on, and they've had some of their own levels of injuries, but they're focused more on getting to the playoffs as healthy as they can and making that run then. But they've got really all the pieces that you could ask for in terms of defensively, offensively, playmakers, rebounders, rim protectors. Like they bring all of that to the table. And it's just what makes you have so much more confidence in them than just about every other team, including guys that you know in clutch situations like a Jamal Murray or a Jokic. You put the ball in their hands, they're going to find a way to score. When we joke about the Celtics a lot, but like in reality, Jason Tatum, we've watched him disappear a lot in the clutch. I think the hardest thing that Chet Holmgren has to deal with and really fight against is the narrative and the hype and the spotlight on Victor Wembanyama, even though in a lot of ways they're similar players. Now, would I take Wembanyama over Chet? Yes, I would. But Chet Holmgren is a similar player in that sense. Also, the very skinny, look like they should be 6'7", and they've been stretched out to over 7 feet tall. But I just don't see how Chet Holmgren is going to overcome the hype and the narrative around Victor Wembanyama. So if I had to lean on this, I would lean taking Jason Tatum to win MVP over Chet Holmgren as a better bet because the Boston Celtics have a very good chance of finishing with the best record in the NBA, which would at least help Jason Tatum. Now, would I feel good about that bet? No, I wouldn't, because I do think Jokic is going to likely win this one now, especially with Embiid out of the race. But we've seen this before where the MVP race has come down in the last third of the season, another straw poll comes out, and then all of a sudden, people start changing their minds on where they're voting. The voting doesn't finish up until the end of the season. So there's always a chance that late in the year, Jason Tatum goes on a tear, and Nikola Jokic is sitting out the last few games of the regular season because Denver wants to be healthy for the playoffs, and that makes a difference with enough votes. Do I think that's likely? No, but there's a reason why we're talking 14-1 versus, Jokic at minus 150 to win the MVP. So if I had to lean one of those, I would go with the Tatum to win MVP, a better bet than Chet to win Rookie of the Year. But that's not an easy. That is probably one of the toughest questions I think we've had so far.
Yeah, I mean, they have been in the first round of the playoffs the last 2 years. Unfortunately for them, in the Denver series last year, Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid were both hurt. So I think they missed that really good opportunity to get a taste of the action. And so Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, some of their supporting cast will be going into these playoffs kind of a little green, a little bit light on experience. But Anthony Edwards has been there. Karl Anthony Towns has been there. Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley have played in playoff situations a lot. They haven't had a ton of success. They haven't won championships yet or anything like that. So there is an element of I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing with the Timberwolves. Yeah, they don't have the benefit of the doubt, even if they were the 1 seed going into these playoffs. They are a team, I truly believe this, that they could absolutely go to the NBA Finals coming out of the West. I think that they have the talent, and if they get the right matchups, they can win 3 series and get to the finals. They also, if they get the wrong matchup, can lose in the first round. Like, that is kind of the ceiling and the floor for them, and it is volatile. I would definitely lean much more toward they're going to win at least 1 series, maybe 2, maybe more than bow out in the first round. I think that would still be a very big disappointment. But that's the volatility and the uncertainty that surrounds this team right now, because we just have not seen them do it together before. So they don't have that benefit of the doubt. They're going to have to really prove that they are capable of winning high leverage games and in April, May, and June before they're going to get anybody's trust and belief that this is actually going to happen.
Funny thing is if you'd asked me that like 3 weeks ago, I would have said absolutely. And that they've been a little wobblier over the last few weeks or so. But that said, like, this team has such well-defined roles, which was kind of what happened during their Final Four run a couple years ago and what they didn't have last year. I mean, you have a clear top option on the perimeter in R.J. Davis. You have the big guy in Baycott that you know you're going to throw it into no matter what. You've got complementary pieces like Cormac Ryan and Harrison Ingram, who aren't necessarily going to be guys that score more than a dozen points a game at any point, but they do what they do really well. And then Elliot Cato, kind of the point guard that is willing to defer to R.J. Davis and is willing to be a table setter. And so they have all that, and they have the right amount of depth, I think, certainly more than they did last year. And so I like them just as kind of a stable team. I don't necessarily think they're unbeatable, but at the same time, I feel like you're going to have to go out and play a pretty good game to knock off the Tar Heels. I certainly think they would be wise to tack on a few more decent victories. I think they have Clemson in the last regular season game, plus the ACC tournament. So, but that said, I think when you look at them, you're looking at a team that hasn't really done anything wrong, has that high-end victory. The metrics look really, really good across the board. They're the sort of team that has gone out and blistered a lot of people this season. I think I would have Wake Forest inside, and in fact, it will be inside my field of 68 projection in the Washington Post tomorrow. I think the Demon Deacons still probably have more work to do. Certainly can't rest easy, but I would consider them one of the 36 best at-large teams in the field right now.